Once upon a time, in an old town, there lived a king, queen, and princess, who lived in a large castle in the middle of a very old and proper town. The time had come in the princess's life for her to get married. The king and queen wanted to make sure that the man they married her off to was someone that would have her in good hands and would make a good king. It had to be someone handsome as well, so that one day they would have a beautiful baby who after them could take over the throne. "We will send a message in the local news," exclaimed the queen, quite pleased with her brilliant idea of spreading the search for a husband. "Splendid idea, darling," responded the king. "We will write it in the newspaper, saying that anyone who believes they are a well-suited husband for my little princess darling can come to the castle on Thursday and tell us about themselves. We can then evaluate them all and see who's the most worthy for our princess." The princess was excited to get all dressed up and see all the different men that were coming to perform for her. She wanted a man who could make her happy and keep her life fun. She knew, though, that her parents were looking for a proper man who had lots of manners and a plain personality. The news was sent out to the town and in the country. In the countryside of the town there were a pair of twin boys who lived in a large mansion and had lots of money, who were very interested in becoming the princess's husband. These men thought very highly of themselves, so Thursday morning the two brothers woke up and dressed themselves up in their finest clothes, and off to the castle of the princess they went. On the way to the castle the two brothers ran into their youngest brother Jack, who had been out doing his thing like he always does. "Look who it is, our weird little brother. Have you been off playing with the pigeons again?" one of the brothers asked teasingly. Jack the Dullard was hurt by his taunting question, but proceeded to laugh it off, acting like nothing was wrong. "No, I was picking some of the flowers when I found the shoe and pigeon," replied Jack. Jack often got teased by everyone from the town, including his brothers, because of his different interests. But Jack did not want to change himself just to fit in. "How come you're in your finest clothes?" he asked. "We're going to the princess's castle to show her how amazing we are and what perfect husbands we would be for her," said the brothers. "That sounds fun!" exclaimed Jack. "I want to go too. This shoe and pigeon would be perfect presents for her." And off the three brothers went. Men were lined up all down the street. Small talk about how they all thought how great they were filled the air. Hours went by, and Jack with his two brothers waited patiently in line when finally their turn came. The king and queen were exhausted after having watched men perform for them all day, and you could see they did not want to evaluate any more. They yawned and rubbed their eyes as Jack and his two brothers talked about themselves and gave the princess the gifts they had brought along. But finally it was Jack's turn to talk them alone. "And you are?" asked the king while yawning. As Jack started telling them about himself and what he liked to do, the king and queen's eyes slowly widened. They were both disturbed and a little bit entertained as Jack told stories from his life. He was so different from everyone else, but you could tell the king and queen did not think he was a suitable husband for the princess. But the princess couldn't stop laughing. You could see the instant connection between the two, and when Jack gave the princess the presents he had brought for her, she knew that this was the man that would make her laugh and keep her happy for the rest of her life. "Mother, father, I have made my decision," declared the princess, and Jack was sent out the room. They were in there for a long time, discussing who was the most suited man for her could have been out of all the hundreds of men they had seen that day. The princess was convinced that it was Jack, even though the queen and king were very much against it. In the end, though, the princess had been so stubborn, the king and queen had to give in. They just thought he was too different and weird for their little girl, but the princess was in love. All the men were shocked and very annoyed when the princess announced that her final pick was Jack the Dullard, though he jumped up in the air with joy, and they lived happily ever after. So kids, don't ever change who you are just because someone makes fun of you or looks at you differently. Just stick to what you love, and someone will love you for who you are.